Hey y'all. As it is at this moment, we are experiencing Melissa. And as we're experiencing Melissa, um, I was praying and doing my little, not often, but a little Bible journal with the entry of date and time and what's happening, not just in the atmosphere, but what's happening in my mind and what's been up with me, you know. And while I was just doing that, I I asked myself a question, and I was like, why is life difficulties always compared with a storm? We always hear they say, you may be going through a storm, she's going through a storm, he's going through a storm. Why do we relate difficulties and challenging moments to a storm? And as I am experiencing this storm, Melissa, and I may not be where it's most impacting, but still, there's a lot of rain and wind, and you can hear it outside. And I may not be quivering in fear, no, but I remember being younger. I think Ivan was my first storm, and it was a little bit, you know, shaking because of my age back then. But since then, I've seen Katrina and Dennis and maybe some other ones. But I'm just thinking, why do we always compare difficulties with being in a storm? And when we look at what a storm is basically any change in the atmosphere, and it causes like a disturbance in weather condition. Like they have different persons will experience different storm. We in the Caribbean, we most definitely experience storm in the form of a hurricane where there is water and wind. And as you know, they say that Melissa is like category 5, which is most dangerous storm. And what makes Melissa so dangerous is that she's kind of not predictable, and especially because she's moving very slow, which means that destructive energy or force will linger long. So instead of just passing by, it will linger long, creating more damages. And just like with this storm, the what we need is like a miracle, like God to intervene to save us, to make sure that at the end of this storm, life is not lost. We may lose houses, we may lose homes and houses. We may lose so many things, but one of the things that we don't want to lose in a storm is life. And even so, when we're going through personal challenges that we classify them as storm, a sudden shift in maybe our faith, our emotions, our job, our children, something that is out of our control, something that causes us to quickly want to button up and prepare for it. And even though we are prepared and we become so strategic about it, still it requires us to be prayerful. It requires us to have faith. It requires us not to just depend on ourselves, depend on the knowledge that we have to secure our homes, our cars, you know. And as my daughter was sleeping, and I was sleeping, of course, but then I was awakened by a phone call. Well, the phone call never necessarily wake me, but I went to use the bathroom, and then I would have realized that there was a call before. And just like with the things that we go through in the midst of a storm, we cannot just sleep through the storm of life, because if we just sleep through it, then I believe like we have to be like practical. Like we don't just want to survive the storm. We wanna still have faith when we come out of the storm. We wanna still believe that God is still a keeper. We wanna still believe that He's by your side, that He's still your shield and buckler. We wanna believe so much at the end of life difficulties. And even so, you know, it's like the more joy I feel, the more I I am mindful that someone is not as dry as I am. And it makes me feel so emotional. So I'm trying not to think about that, but I am praying that especially the elderlies, they are safe um in my community, in different parishes, the shut-ins, those that really don't necessarily have a family member right now, or a friend or companion. And it's just, yeah, I'm just emotional. Yeah, I'm just like that. So you tell me though, you tell me, why do you think that the difficulties that we go through, they're often compared with a storm? And just tell me how the two link for you, because I did not do any research or anything. I'm just freestyling right now. So let me know.